Go ahead.
I'll go next.
Yeah.
So I'm Eric Scott, co-founder, co-owner of Tiny Mod, which we'll be presenting to you tonight here in Colorado, in the mountains of Colorado, and backgrounds in architecture, design, visualization, which I have a company, Viz Graphics, that does all things marketing for builders, developers, and building material manufacturers. So great to be here and looking forward to speaking with everybody tonight.
Yeah, and my name's Kevin Lockhart. I'm a national builder and a partner in Tiny Mod. I've probably built several hundred scattered site properties throughout the Midwest and started my career with Champion Homes and held several senior positions with that company for a total about 15 years. I've been in offsite construction for 39 years and have done about a little over $1 billion in prefab offsite construction.
Great. And I'm Cindy. And I think almost everybody here knows me. So I organized this, obviously, and I'm so glad all of you guys could show up tonight. And I really wanted to share this. Nolan reached out to me and, we set up a meeting. I don't know, I think you found me on LinkedIn. And we started talking, and I said, I know a bunch of people who might be interested in this information. So that's where we're at today. We're here talking about several different things. Tiffany had asked me, are we talking about ADUs? Are we talking about modular? I think there's a wide range of things that we're going to talk about. So feel free to hang on to those questions if we don't answer them and ask them at the end. So anybody want to volunteer to go next?
I can go next. How's it going, guys? I'm Verge. I'm located here in Denver. Currently focused on fix and flips. Working
Okay.
on few projects right now to just hit the market. One is about to hit the market, and then we have two more in the coming weeks, and we're looking to buy more.
Yeah, nice.
Yep.
Nice.
And I work with Burge and I help him find funding, right, Kim?
Yes, I'll just
All
step
of,
in.
yeah. And all my people who are here are sort of intertwined. So, it's just kind of interesting. So that's why I called on Kim next. Kim, did you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Kim Gilbert. I'm also in the Denver area and currently working on PML, PMP deals with Cindy as an entry into learning how to do fix and flip and fix and hold properties. Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, Verge.
Tiffany, you want to go next?
Sure, I'll go next. So I'm kind of in two lanes. I do PML, as Cindy knows, and then she's connected me with a few people, and so that's been great. I just last Friday we had my first fix and flip hit the market, and then I signed tomorrow on my second fix and flip. So
Nice, nice.
yeah, we'll see. Fingers crossed. We're praying that the first one sells quickly. Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
And Pamela, would you like to go next? You're in that row.
You can call me Pam.
Okay.
And I'm in the Grand Junction area of Colorado.
Nice.
I'm new to PML, just started doing that this month. Really what I have done, my husband and I, kind of more house hacking, where we buy a pretty good fixer-upper, live in it for a couple of years, turn around and sell it. So currently we've been in this house about a month and we're basically glamping. But we do have in-laws that we need, have property in the Paonia area. And we have a water tap we need to save, and we need to add a tiny home. So very interested
Perfect.
in something like this.
Very nice. We're actually talking to another couple in Paonia. They just closed on a lot this week and
Okay,
doing a feasibility study. So,
okay, cool.
Yeah. Rosemary, would you like to go next and just introduce yourself and tell us what you're up to?
Yeah, my name is Rosemary and I am in the Denver area. Just fairly new to real estate investing. Not quite sure what I want to do. Eventually, I would like to be a PML, but definitely interested in the ADU as I own a home within Denver City and always thought about placing an ADU in my backyard and renting it out for income as midterm or whatever. So very interested to hear what you guys have to say tonight.
Great, thanks. Wes, my personal assistant who saved the day today, do you want to go next?
The bill's in the mail. Yeah, sure. Hey, Wes, I'm in the Air Force. Currently in Colorado Springs as of last summer. Mainly do out of state investing. I've done about 30 version flips. Doing a syndication this year on the capital raising side. Got a development project in Mississippi. We got the land and the lots. I'm flying there next month to go to a zoning meeting so we get approval. If so, we'll build 13 cottages. I think that's it.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, Wes went around all my posts today and added the right link. So that's why I'm saying he saved the day. So, Sandy, do you want to introduce yourself next?
Sure. Hi, I'm Sandy, and I also am in the Denver area. I actually live up Loveland towards Fort Collins area, and I've gotten to know the girls through Reen, and I've done one flip this year. It's been kind of more dabbling with what Cindy does with, with some apartment buildings and lending money. Some of that isn't going so great, but we're working through that. And right now I'm a dental hygienist, and I'm just, I don't have anything going on right at the moment, but I'm interested to see what you guys have to say and would like to learn some more information about it. So
Perfect.
Great.
Thanks for being here.
coming.
you. Mhm.
Nicole, do you want to tell us where you're at and what your story is?
Sure. We're from Colorado, but we're in Arkansas right now, and we're negotiating a house in Mena, Arkansas.
And you had a good burr in Colorado Springs, and you guys are living in your camper.
Yep, we're living
Yep.
in our camper.
Yep, and they're driving
we like
around trying to find the right property with the right numbers.
Well, yeah, we're from Steamboat, which felt very expensive and hard to purchase any rental properties, and so we decided to bring it on the road. Look for
Yep.
less expensive markets.
Yep. So they're
It
on
looks like
everybody.
an Airstream from the inside. Is that correct?
It's an Airstream.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know that look. I know that look.
Yeah, we love it.
very distinct.
I'm super into it. I think I'm more into it than my husband.
Yeah.
It's the other way around.
Yeah,
I think.
usually. Angel, did you want to say anything?
Yes. So sorry about that, guys. I'm over here ordering appliances for one of our flips that we're about to finish up. So, yeah. My name is Angel. I'm out here based in Sacramento, California. I am business partners with Verge. We currently have 4 flips listed on the market, and we have another 2 that are going to be going live in this upcoming weeks. Hopefully, in the next 2 weeks, they should be ready to go. And then I think this Zoom is going to be great overall because people, wholesalers, when negotiating with wholesalers, they tell us about adding ADUs. But honestly, I have no freaking idea where to even start with the ADUs. So this would be something to add to our tool belt.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, Angel. Mitch, did you want to say something? Or did he?
Sure. Yeah, I'll hop on here. You can see my face every once in a while, I guess. But yeah, so I'm Mitch. I'm in Fort Collins. I know I have this. I wish I was someplace warm consistently in general, so enjoy that.
Here, here.
But Yeah, and so I work with Cindy a lot. We raise capital together, and I work with Verge and Angel and Alex. I'm not sure where he's at. I'll have to bug him and have him hop on. But I do a lot of connecting in general. I'm also in life insurance and tax strategy. I've been cannabis and technology, and I actually come from the music industry as well. So that's a whole different story, exiting the music industry and jumping into the real estate space. But yeah, so thank you, Cindy and Nolan, for putting this together, and I'm excited to learn more.
Yeah, great. Paul, do you want to say anything or are you just going to hang out there? He said he had a headache. There he is.
Let's see. Yeah, hi, I'm Paul. I recently parted ways with my W-2. I've built up about 30 doors. Most of that's with I invest in Vegas, Boise, and Ohio, and I'm starting to get back into Denver now for fix and flips, and I'm starting to sell off some of my smaller properties to push into to finance my fix and flips, and as well as some multifamily in different markets. So I'm looking to aggressively scale up over the next couple of years. So I haven't really given much thought to ADUs, but I'm always willing to learn more. So just joining in to see what it's all about.
Well, great. Thanks for coming, Paul. We appreciate it. All right, guys. Do you want to share your presentation and we'll have a listen?
Yeah,
Sounds great.
sounds good.
All right.
All right, so can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
I'm
Yep.
gonna go ahead and also put this link in the chat so that everybody can access it. It's just a Google slide that everybody can access kind of on their own time. So again, I'm Eric Scott, co-founder, co-manager of Tiny Mod Living. We are a Colorado modular seller, a Colorado business, but we currently do work in Colorado, Nebraska, Minnesota, Kansas, and a little bit in Oklahoma. We are looking nationwide with developers to do larger projects, and we have capacities and relationships nationwide for a lot of offsite solutions. And that's kind of what we're going to talk a lot about, offsite solutions, and then, where we've, kind of honed in terms of Tiny Mod. So I'll just give a quick introduction to Tiny Mod, why offsite construction, our design to construction process, and why kind of our group is a good value added partner. So at Tiny Mod, we really focus on offsite and prefab solutions, mostly taking small footprints and scaling from there. So we design and deliver those solutions, be it ADUs, single family, multifamily, and they're all solutions that are built on permanent foundations to the existing IRC codes. So the word modular is kind of or prefab can be, stand out to certain appraisers and, finance companies. And so we really help on that education side, talking about prefab solutions being built to the same code as a site-built home, which is the IRC. We simplify the building process with offsite solutions when you can build it in a factory, bring it out onto site, reduces a ton of time and cost across a lot of different verticals, and it's a very predictable costing to understand the risk. And then again, we can scale on any need or site. So we really launched as doing backyard ADUs, in the state of Colorado, since a lot of folks are here in Colorado wondering about ADUs, come July 1st of this year, every single residential zoning district in Colorado will have to accept ADUs. So it's going to come down to each jurisdiction as to what those rules are. But most municipalities and cities at this stage have integrated some sort of policies. And so we've, been keeping our tabs on all of those areas and, the state legislation to help, cut some of the red tape, make the permitting process faster, and then by offering a turnkey offsite solution, be it modular or panelized, we can pretty much access any backyard in the state. So a lot of changes coming for that. So that's kind of a whole other discussion about the state of Colorado and what they're doing. But we can share some of those details through Cindy and have that sent out to the group, just given that most of you are doing fix and flips, and there might be opportunities to add additional investment by increasing the density with an ADU. So we can kind of dive into that after this section. So also, prefab solutions or offsite solutions are great for infill and rural locations where there's not a lot of trades. Taking kind of 17 trades that you need on site for a typical on-site build down to about 4 with a prefabricated solution. They're all code compliant and optimized for efficiency. So again, we take small modules, and whether that's an ADU or we scale to a 3-bed, 2-bath kind of starter home for build to rent or build for sale. It's just adding modules to the solution that increases the square footage to get the product type you're looking for. And then, of course, we leverage all the advanced manufacturing. So from full scale modular, where the house arrives on site, 85 to 90% complete, to panelized solutions where you can get a shell of a building flat packed to a site location. And if it's a hard location to access with a crane or modular, that then the prefab walls can still be erected much faster and quicker, and you get most of the building components on site quickly. And then just, we're really trying to empower, from consumers all the way to developers, how we go about using offsite solutions. So, they're scalable in a lot of different ways. And so we're just trying to break the mold of what people think about modular. It's not a mobile home. It's not on a trailer. It's a full home that is, built and shipped to your site. And then just some graphics of things that we've been working on, everything from, a pool house to, a mother-in-law suite, to large scale development where we're doing a build to rent project in Omaha of 99 units of, 3-bed, 2-bath homes, to duplexes and building scale with and density through duplexes with ADUs. So really modular can happen on a wide spectrum, and no product type is really too small or too big. So why offsite? I'll kind of give some overview, and then I'll let Kevin kind of dive into that since that's his background and experience. But essentially the number one thing is accelerated construction. As I mentioned, it's predictable. Right now, if we're putting in orders, we're looking at getting a full-scale house within 90 days, 120 days. And And so you can get a very predictable price, a very predictable timeline, and it helps all your site build costs that happen congruently be much more efficient. And so through that process, you get cost savings of a lot of the things that you would have to go through in a site build. It cuts that, down by 30 to 50% in terms of savings across the whole spectrum of a project. So when you're thinking about utilities and foundation costs, porches and sidewalks and all of those things that modular can save throughout the entire process. And then from an environmental benefit standpoint, you typically don't have to have any dumpsters on site because there's very little waste on site. Everything, that happens in the factory, ships to the site, and so it allows for much less footprint and kind of a wasteful construction site. And then Kevin, can you just add some other, there's many benefits. Can you add some other things that the group would enjoy hearing?
Yeah, you touched on most of them, Eric, but investors can really reap the benefits of using a offsite or prefab construction. Like Eric said, there's lower construction costs, and really that's due to the economics of scale. You have reduced labor cost, minimized material, factory settings, and then you have a predictable budget. You have fixed costs, shorter timelines, and a reduced risk of budget overruns, which provides investors, a greater financial certainty. It's everything is done station by station, line by line, every day, same thing out the door. It's faster returns on your investment. It can be, like Eric said, 30 to 50% faster. And it's all simultaneous. It's when the site prep is getting done, the modular or prefab home is being built, rolls into the site at the same time. Another very important item is flexibility and scalability, adaptable designs. Modular buildings can be easily expanded, reconfigured. It makes them ideal for dynamic markets, healthcare, education, commercial, ADU, single family. There's a real diverse application, all similar square foot price. So it's definitely sustainable, and it has, a market appeal. There's it's construction friendly, produces less waste, and definitely more energy efficient. One of the big things for investors is the reduced financial risk, because you have improved quality control. We put a slide together that some of the large industry partners use that shows the factory settings. It just reduces the maintenance costs over time, and it's weather independent. So the indoor production minimizes all the delays and keeps the projects on schedule. There's financing and tax benefits. Reduced upfront costs makes the modular project more accessible for investors with limited capital. And then, of course, there's higher ROI potential. So let's just add a couple to what Eric said, but it's really a key benefit for investors,
especially for rental portfolios too. If you're moving your construction timeline up by 6 months in some cases, depending on the scale and the size of the opportunity, that's many months more of revenue that you're gaining being able to do that, right? Sometimes that could be the difference of the feasibility of making a project successful versus not, right? And that's what we really pride ourselves on, is trying to put ourselves in the shoes of the investor. Myself coming from the former general contracting background and then moving more into the development world, right? We really pride ourselves on or putting ourselves in your shoes and looking at it from the financial aspect, not just the construction aspect, and understanding what is it you're trying to accomplish, right? What makes this project a go or no go, right? And finding how way to make it a go so that it's a lot easier for you guys to, understand and comprehend on what's involved in the process, right? Because especially if you're newer to development and maybe haven't gone down the construction path, right? This gives you a much easier path to kind of jump into that because, we're kind of taking that load, and just, ultimately providing you kind of more of a turnkey solution is always our goal.
And speaking of the turnkey is like the typical process. And, again, my background's in architecture and I, worked many years in the early 2000s doing production housing. And just the process of, okay, you're hiring an architect and then you're hiring GCs and just working down the line within modular and offsite construction solutions, specifically with our team, we can go from that inception and design all the way through construction and you alleviate a ton of consultants along the way. Yes, you need a structural engineer for foundations. Yes, you need a civil engineer to do, layouts for drainage and, if you're doing larger master plan or infill type things. But from our team, again, from kind of the start or the discovery, through each of these phases, you just deal with one team, all the way through until your C of O. So in that, and specifically around folks that are curious about ADUs and curious about, I wonder if my lot or my piece of dirt or my land is a good fit for this. And that is our number one phase. We go through a discovery and feasibility study, no matter if it's an ADU or a master plan development like we're doing in Omaha, is we understand the codes. We, look up your site. We go through the process of what fits on that lot, with what's fitting your needs. And we go through the design and engineering process with that to know before you pull the trigger if this is a good return or a good investment. So we do things in pre-construction like showing you in 3D exactly what your design is going to look like, showing your lot, showing that on the lot so you can understand the spatial layout that not only kind of fits your needs, but also meets the regulations of zoning and all the building codes. And then, once we go through that process and we start looking at all the site build costs, we've got a full step-by-step form that goes from the feasibility study to getting your certificate of occupancy. And it also tracks all your fees for all your site built costs. So getting the engineering, the permitting, what the foundation costs. If you're on a lot that has municipal water and sewer, what are those tap fees? If you're not, if you're on acreage, what is it going to take to do a septic and well and connect electrical? So we kind of work through all of those things in the discovery, feasibility, design, and engineering so that then we can push it through when everything is set, you're comfortable with the budget, then we can actually go through the build and delivery process. So it's really soup to nuts all through one kind of sheet of music with one team that can answer all your questions.
Eric, oh, okay, you've got another slide. I wasn't sure if you had more.
This is the last slide, and then we can kind of get into some discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, we want to really focus on, what's the most of the things that are relevant to you, right? So I would encourage everybody here to, chime in, tell us what questions you have. We certainly want to address any of those questions, any projects that you have interest in, even if it's just an idea or a thought that you have in mind. We love to get involved early That's what I would encourage you to reach out to myself. I'm kind of on the front end of this, and I stay engaged as a team. We've kind of got four different people kind of managing the team. Myself on the front end, on the account management side, and then Eric's on the design and engineering side, Kevin's on the construction side, and then my partner Sam, who's actually unfortunately not here tonight. He's actually owned over about 1,000 doors as a real estate investor and developer. So like really have the experience of really putting ourselves, in your shoes. And our goal is to help you through, all the different analysis, work through the bid review, performer review, focus, work with Cindy on debt and equity sourcing potentially, or helping you, find other sources, that or educating the sources that you may have, right? It's just a matter of it's a team and collaborative effort working through all the different phases to kind of help you, through the process so that it becomes something that's feasible for you versus something that's a headache.
Yeah, building can definitely be a headache. Can you talk about the financing part for people and also maybe pull up I don't know if I can do that or you guys could do that and pull up your site and maybe go through just a little bit that's on there because I think it's got some of the floor plans and maybe see if you can throw some numbers out there to just give some price ranges and stuff because, a lot of times all of this comes down to one thing and that's can we fund it? So if you can
Sure.
go into that, I think that would be great.
Couple things I would want to add too is, we do have, these as, predetermined plans, but we also have, gone out and customized plans. That's how we started planning for the 99 home unit deal. And we can do that whether it's a single unit, a single family home or a group of single family homes, or even scaling into a custom development for like multifamily or a combination there. So just keep that in mind as you're kind of looking at this as well.
And then we've got a spot that says on the boards, and that's a bunch of projects we're working on.
Yeah. So the great thing about our designs and our solutions is they're scalable. When we're building prefab and specifically modular, where we can only build a certain width and a height to get it from the factory to the site location. And so we've really developed, calculations and a system about how do we take, 15 by 24 to 15 by, 38 to then 30 by 58 and keep scaling those solutions. So just to give you an idea about what most of our, build to consumer is the 540. And so again, it's out of the box as a one bedroom, a one bath. This, is delivered to Colorado for right around $100,000, everything above the foundation. And we've been able to take this one plan and it's sort of evolved into, I would say, about 5 different plans. Like somebody, wants a front porch, and so we add that on. Somebody wants a flex space, and so we can do increments of stretches to the length for like $1,000 for every 2 feet. And so we've been able to customize this plan quite a bit. Kevin, could you speak to just maybe a general, cost per square foot for the group that they could generally just have as a number?
Yeah, typically on single family, let me get my video going back here. On these small ADUs, you're going to be from $90 a square foot to 150. It just depends on where you're at, and then you get up to the a single family, and you can be, depending what part of the country, because concrete in Omaha is $20 a yard cheaper than it is in Denver, and so those on-site construction costs can change. And some of our manufacturing partners, we've got about 45 manufacturing partners throughout the United States, and each of those vary a little bit, but if you figure that, good 100 and a quarter or something, and you're going to be, pretty safe on, a design unless we get real crazy with options.
I don't know if anybody here has ever built anything. I used to work for builders as a salesperson, and I know that, they'll have that fun sign out front that says, starting from, $399. And by the time you outfit your home, you've added $150,000 worth of upgrades, and that's why they make the model so beautiful. So do you have standard features, or are there things that you have to add on to that increase the value, or not the value, increase the price?
Yeah, yeah. And so that first pitch was just exactly what you said, because starting at 1.25 is the home only. And then your site costs, currently in the United States, about $300 to $400 a square foot to site build. And so, for example, in Omaha, we're coming in, maybe $25 a square foot less than, a DR Horton. We'll use him for an example because he's a big national builder. And so all in, you're gonna probably be, closer to the 290 a square foot when you do, site, and you do foundation, and you do water, and you do sewer. And some of the spots in Colorado, we're putting in some wells and septics that are crazy expensive, 55, 60,000, I think, on one property for a well and septic. So yeah, if you have access to water and sewer, it definitely drives that cost down. But we're under, the national average when you do a turnkey type process. But when you do an ADU in your backyard, it's a little bit different. For an in-law quarters, multi-generational living is just huge around the country now. And a lot of people are putting them in for, their, family members in their backyard. A lot of cities you can tie to your existing water and sewer. I know in Fort Collins, we've just bid a project, and you can tie, right into the existing water and sewer, which is great. You don't have to add that additional expense. All of them are built to the IRC code, so they do require a permanent, structural foundation. And then that, because for financing, then it's an appraised just like a site built home, and financed like a site built home. So you should be able to go to any lender that you currently work with, tell them you're building an IRC offsite construction home, and you're going to get typical mortgage rates. We've got a bank on our site that, works nationally, and they'll do construction loans. They'll do, whatever you need to do for the property. This bank will help out.
Okay.
And
So,
Cindy, to kind of speak to just like what finishes are, we've got kind of a standard list of features listed on our website, but it's, very much the same building materials that you would find on any site built home, like LP smart siding, 30-year architectural shingles. We can also do metal roofs, premium windows and doors, all the flooring. There's quite a bit, quite a few different options. Mainly it's, the luxury vinyl plank. There's, accessible bathroom options, hard surface countertops, premium cabinets, and, soft close, door hardware. And then all the systems within the units are efficient. From there, there's a whole slew of options where you can upgrade to different kitchen packages, solar panels, different, colors or materials. Like if you want to do board and batten versus a lap siding versus, adding a little bit of a premium board and batten and lap siding. So those are all the things we work through in the feasibility study. We've got an order form that's, very up to date always with all of the costs, with, everything is ever changing at the moment with that. So we kind of walk through that process, and then if we need to scale back on options, we can always, kind of go back to the house once we figure out some of the site costs. So for anybody that's, really questioning ADUs and what's involved, what's included, there's many different options to go with.
So on the, let's just say, you said the one bedroom is the, I want to say that, is that the one that you build a lot of? I'm just trying to get an
Yeah.
idea. So when you say 150 a square foot, let's say, and we take, what is it, 540 square feet or something?
Mhm.
And I think you multiply that, that's 81,000. So if somebody said, okay, just to have the home, it's 81,000. But of course, then it depends if you have to have, a well and a septic and things like that. Of course, that's going to add more. But to get that base cost, is that basically where that property would be if we just took that 150 times 540 square feet, and that's where we might start with our number?
Yeah, and that's typically right around what the base price of that home is right around 85,000 with, adding options of like black windows are more expensive, but they're just more prevalent today and have that aesthetic that with most options that people select delivered to the site, and there's a caveat to transportation, just depending on where that is. But I will say most of our projects in Colorado, up in the mountains, with options is right around 100 to 110,000 for the house itself.
Yeah.
Most of the projects that people are doing, we've got a couple in Park County, some down in Teller County, looking at some in Boulder and Eagle County. Um, for the 540, one bedroom, one bath, if you were to look at a lot, so everything outside of the lot, we've been coming in right around 250,000. And that's with, a septic, a well, electric connections, all the crane, the site and finish crews that come in when the house is delivered to, basically finish and complete it on its foundation. Um, and again, the site costs are the big variable. Where we can be very predictable is on the house so that we can figure out the best solution for your site costs.
Okay, great. And then I have one more question, then I'm going to open it up just because I know some of this stuff already because I've talked to you guys. But one of the things that I thought was pretty cool is that you guys, I believe this is correct. You're going to be having I don't know what to call it, a manufacturing site in Colorado. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. So we're working towards, based on the volume that we're dealing with, especially from my side, we're getting to the point where we have developers and builders all over the country that have put up quite a big number of units. I mean, if there's a possibility we may build somewhere upwards of 600 units this year. That could be even higher if everything goes as planned. So based on that volume, we're getting to the point where it's making sense for us to have our own facility. So we're working towards having our own automated factory in actually in Bennett, Colorado is the site we're working on. And I'll actually be coming to Denver here on the 5th and 6th to work on some of that, meet with some of our investors and such on that opportunity as well.
Great. I think that's wonderful. I think that benefits us. So that's why I wanted to bring it up. I wanted to open up the floor for any questions or comments that anybody might have.
I'll start.
Okay.
Cool. A few different questions. You mentioned like, the financing and insurance should be squared away because of the type of build. You also referenced D.R. Horton. I'm pretty familiar with them. So if we have one of these builds next to a D.R. Horton, comparable home, what have you seen for like market value? Now, if I were using this as an investor, like I want to do exactly what you guys are talking about, use it as an actual like ADU. And so I don't necessarily care for the next 20 years what the ADU is worth. But if we're doing like a bigger model, would you say that people think of this differently, or would like appraisers think of this differently?
No, they will not, and um, they've been educated properly. And Nolan, you can speak to the project in Omaha. It's right next to a
Yep.
DR Horton project.
Yeah. So, and I would argue that, from an appraisal standpoint and inspection standpoint, all of those things from a third party standpoint, they'll be looked at basically identical. I will say from a quality standpoint, um, I think we're better than most production builders based on, I've walked, the number of products that we've walked and done. As somebody that's built, hundreds of these in my career, and certainly Kevin is as well. Like, since this thing is never, the beautiful thing about this is, especially with a modular solution, the materials never see any moisture, right? So you're getting an enclosed solution that's never seen moisture. No production builder can tell you that, right? And so, right off the gate, you're kind of enclosing it to that point. But I feel like you're also getting a better quality because of, we're building these things like, just like when you go buy a Chevy or Ford or Dodge or whatever you like to buy, right? That's built in the factory and it's built to the quality standards that are set, on a day to day, right? And part of our process too is if there is an issue with the property, once they get the property to site, what gets transported, if there's any cracking or minor thing, some of the things that if there's are some on-site defects that do come as a result of the project, we take care of those things and we stand behind what we're doing as well. So it kind of again adheres to a higher standard than I feel most production builders adhere to in today's standards.
Yeah. And to answer, a little farther on that, Wes, they just use comps in the area, typical comps. So they should, yeah.
Is there a warranty? Like a new construction, I think it's like 2 years. What is your warranty?
It's the same. All the
Okay.
warranties are the same. Then on structural, it's 7 year on structural.
Okay, good.
Then all of the appliances and all the windows and everything, from each manufacturer within the home is, has their own warranties as well. So you pretty much get a whole packet of things. And I was just going to mention too is kind of the build to rent arena, where I think a lot of investors are looking right now. And I know a lot of you do fix and flips, but as you guys, look at properties that could be scrapes, and do more of an infill solution, I mean, it would be a perfect solution, and save a ton of costs when you look at, versus site build. And with my other business, I've done hundreds of renderings, hundreds of floor plans of all these townhomes, and basically what we've seen happen in Denver over and over and over again, and it just keeps driving up the cost to a point where I don't think investors can, predict what the marketability of that is. With modular and upfront, we can do all of that analysis up front and be very predictable on the end result. So, just another point to add to any of you that may be looking at some type of infill projects, in addition to fix and flips.
Tiffany?
Yeah, so I was just kind of curious because I have been I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
A couple years I've been kind of thinking of putting tiny homes on our property because we have about 4 acres, half of which doesn't get utilized, and it has a great mountain view. Now getting my husband on board, that's another situation, but
We got that.
We'll help you.
but yeah, so that's where, but now that the city has decided that they are going to widen the road and basically take a lot of our property, he's kind of rethinking about building over there on that other side. I mean, that would be something that you guys would handle. I mean, I don't think we can tap into our water and our sewer and all of that stuff, I would assume it would probably have to be an
Yeah, so
addition.
we do a feasibility study that answers all those questions because we wouldn't know that without doing that study.
Right.
But I just wanted to mention on tiny homes, there's some that are built to an ANSI code, which is really a park model, and then there's HUD code, which is built to the HUD manufactured home code, and we build everything to the IRC code. But that tiny home is a lot of different people get a tiny home that's a park model, and you can't keep them there permanent. They make you move them. We've got a client right now that bought a tiny home and thought they could keep it permanent, and they have to move it. Where do they have to move it, Eric? Into the
Yeah,
city?
Park County's got, they like a 3 month memorandum where you can only have an RV on your lot in Park County for 3 months. So they go up there, they use it for the 3 months, then they have to go up there, detach it, take it to it's really just a parking lot at the front of the community. Kind of doesn't make much sense, but that's kind of the rule. So, and I think that is another thing where we're tiny mod, but it doesn't mean that we're building tiny homes specifically. We design in tiny modules that can scale. And so, yes, we do build a smaller home, but it is still considered a full dwelling and not a tiny under the tiny home code that is on a trailer.
Right,
So
because it's on a fixed foundation.
it's on a fixed foundation.
Yeah.
And so that's where, like Tiffany, with your property, going through the feasibility study to see, you know, if it makes sense. We can also do park models and tiny homes on a trailer if that's what, your property requires. So through that feasibility study, we would kind of go through all the zoning to see what allowed uses are available and then boil it down to what the product type is, where does it go, how does it connect all the utilities, and kind of work through each, the process to know what's possible.
Okay. Yeah, I was just kind of curious. I just thought of tiny homes because that's what, the new thing. But
Right.
but we're, country-ish changed into not
What county is it,
Weld
Weld
County.
County. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done a couple of feasibility studies in Weld County, and they're definitely more lenient than other counties. So,
Yeah. And we're unincorporated, so that
got
kind of helps too.
yeah. And is it agricultural,
It could be
Okay.
around us is, but it could be. We just haven't used it for that.
And definitely there's just a lot more flexibility when it has an ag zoning, just because an ag zoning has to allow not only residential but all the things that go with ag. So there is definitely some variances and leniencies when it comes to that type of zoning.
Okay. Thank you.
Verge, you want to go ahead?
Yes. Yeah, thank you guys for that presentation. I mean, that was really informative. So we're flipping a house right now. It's around like a 10,000 square foot like lot. The house is only around like let's say total 1,600 square feet, 800 up top, 800 in the basement. So we have our backyard, we can fit like 6 food trucks. Food trucks in there. So and listing agent was actually asking like, do you know if ADU is possible to put in the back? I know it's that I have to do a little bit more research if it's even possible. But as far as like the prefab, are you guys able to transport it into like highly like dense like neighborhoods? I know it sounds
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
a big challenge. Like
that's stuff we look at in the feasibility study. What's the site access like? Are there overhead power lines, trees? What route from the factory to that specific site location just, what does that route look like? And then, if it is a dense populated area, we would do a site visit with you and just go around, take pictures and make sure it's a doable project.
Okay.
Is there a charge for the feasibility study?
Yeah, so we charge $995 for the feasibility study. That's really on kind of the single lot ADUs and kind of single projects. If we're looking at, with our group that is more, business to business with developers and doing larger scale, then we have different fees. But just for like ADUs and just looking at if it's a one-off kind of deal, it's $995. And that includes, again, the zoning study, a conceptual site plan, so we know kind of the box we're needing to work within in terms of bulk planes, setbacks, things like that. We customize the floor plan. We do a 3D exterior elevation, and then our build cost model form that kind of helps you as the owner or investor track all the costs for the site build items. And that can take sometimes, it's about a week just to get some of the basic information. And then, we kind of go back and forth with the manufacturer to get the pricing based on, your specific design and options, and then start working with you on all the site build stuff.
Great. Sandy, did you want to go ahead?
Yes. So you answered some of the questions, but I'm not real familiar with like new builds and things like that. I have like one of the things we're looking at is in Nebraska. There's an area that's really starting to they've got some upcoming things, and I have a friend, well, she's a friend investor. We've actually been back and forth about purchasing her trailer park, and she has it now, and they're struggling. They're struggling with, it has trailers on there, but actually, building it up. So as far as like looking at something like this, I'm sure you probably can, but and it would depend on the town or the city or the county, develop put those homes on, like a trailer park when it already has the electrical, water, sewage. I know that's an open-ended question, but I was kind of wondering how that would look like to actually turn it into something different than a trailer park.
So we've are looking into, that business model ourselves, and have looked at several trailer parks because, there is what town in Nebraska?
Ogallala.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, one, you can actually take the old ones to the dump. Like they'll take them, they charge you. And so if they're like that bad, we just bring in a toter, and, unhook them, get them out of there. But the new business model that you're talking about, is kind of spreading throughout the United States, is getting those old parks and putting in the newer type product that we're selling, and either renting them or selling them, on that 30 by 90 space.
Right. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so if you've done a performa on that, it really pencils, and probably in Ogallala, we would definitely, offline here, kind of help guide you through that, and maybe take a look at that park, and, give some ideas and suggestions. But yeah, that's a really good business model. If you can find an old park, that the water and sewer is, good at, then it really works.
Well, and that's the thing. A couple of years ago, she was gonna sell her finance, and then went down and checked it all out and did the performa and all that. And then there was stuff on her end with another investor that it didn't go. We did, but she's still sitting on it and is getting of age. And so we're still talking. And so that was my concern. She's having a hard time, and I don't know if she really wants to improve it. But I was thinking, this could be something to look at, to talk with her about.
Yeah. How many spaces are in there?
There is 31. And I think they only have, well, they may have more, but there was only like 12 on it. And when I had looked at it, there was a bunch that needed to be removed. And, I'm keeping in contact with her, but, I've kind of let it go for a bit, but this kind of sparked my, made me curious about it. Cause I was like, and they really need housing really bad.
Yeah. Well, you've got Cabela's there, which is huge. Then you've got the lake.
Well, Cabela's is not there anymore.
Oh, did they leave? Yeah.
They're in Sydney. They're in Sydney. But I know they're building around.
Yeah, you have the lake there. That's right. Yeah.
They're not in Sydney anymore.
Oh, it's Bass Pro, I guess. Who it is.
Oh, well, is it Bass Pro? Do they have a location there?
I think so, but yeah, it's not very good.
Well, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law lived in Sydney, and they both worked for Cabela's. So I know that the headquarters was there, and the headquarters is gone. So I didn't think that they still had a sales or a location.
Ogallala Lake McConaughey?
It's a different area. It's Keith County. It's outside of it, like 35 miles. But they've got some things
my brother-in-law has built,
familiar with this.
Yeah, my brother, and I'm familiar with that, and I have a thought on that as well. But my brother-in-law went into Ogallala and built a small Cabela's there with about 7 other individuals. So I'm very familiar with that area. But anyway, we could talk about that later, Sandy. But I just had an idea, so we should talk about it.
Maybe we could Tiny Mod at your brother-in-law's Cabela's.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I got contacts.
We've been looking for an opportunity like that for sure.
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about.
For sure. Yeah. Kim, do you have a question? Did we answer it yet?
You may have. I was trying to take notes while we were talking, so thanks. Just a quick question. So we are looking at these investment properties and eyeballing them to determine whether or not it would be feasible. Is there a minimum lot size we should be taking into consideration, or like a variance from the primary house?
All of that stuff is kind of up in the air right now just because the new law has not completely taken effect. I would say your standard, 6250, lots in Denver is really the minimum lot size that, stuff can fit. It also kind of depends on what the floor area ratio is. So the size of the lot, divided by the square footage on the ground, and that includes, everything under roof, basically. So garage, porch, dwelling, to figure out, I would say most, like in Denver specific, is 35%. So you can't cover more than 35% of that lot. Now, there are caveats to where they're coming up with options to say, if you go 2-story, for example, then you're going to fall under a whole different set of codes, and it'll actually allow you less setbacks and more density. So again, it just really comes down to, the lots. And I think, maybe that's kind of our next session, is just like an ADU session about, what are the ideal lots? Because I think that's, as soon as this takes effect, and I would say within a year from today, we're going to know a lot more data about what are some general guidelines statewide that we could, as investors, just go look at lot after lot to see if it's feasible. Right now, it's still a little bit of like, I'll look at the end lot on a community and you can put an ADU there, but as soon as you get to an internal lot, it's not allowed. So there's still a bit of hiccups and certain areas around town that are more acceptable than others.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
like I live in Highlands Ranch. There is no way in heck they're ever gonna
Yeah,
allow.
Highlands Ranch, they don't want, everything's our, you don't have a backyard anyway to use.
I am on the corner, so I have a big lot.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. All right.
Highlands Ranch is definitely a different ball of
Yes,
wax altogether.
it is for sure. Kim, did we answer that then? So the answer was a 62 by 50 lot. Is that what you were saying? That was the answer?
6,250 square feet.
Oh,
So it's
60.
kind of a
Sorry, I'm glad
standard
I repeated that.
Denver. Yeah.
Square feet. Okay.
So I would say most zoning, like minimum is 35 foot wide to where, you're going to have 5 foot setbacks on the sides and, anywhere from 10 to 15 on the rear, depending on other things. Now you can go, file variances. I will say to anybody here that's working in any city or jurisdiction, it is a very long process. And I think you're better suited to find something that's more acceptable up front than trying to go in for a variance and ask for something. I've heard of clients, it taking literally years to get through that process.
In Denver, have you done anything in Denver? Number one is my question. Number two, if you did anything in Denver, or maybe you just know the answer, does it have to be inspected? Like when you pull a permit in Denver, they
Yeah.
got to come in and they got to do the different inspections. Is this inspected along the way?
Yeah. So with modular, it's done from the state in the factory. So everything above the foundation, everything to do with the house and structure itself is inspected in the factory by a third party state official. The permits and things that you get with Denver requires that the modular prints be sent to Denver, but Denver does not inspect the house itself. They inspect the utilities, the foundation, all the site work, and then they come through and do a final state inspection after it's set and finished on the foundation. So there is also a time savings in that process, and we're hoping that more jurisdictions come up with pre-designed product like we've got. And like in the city of Omaha, for example, you can go to the city of Omaha, walk into their permit office, select one of our models, and just get a permit, as opposed to, okay, I need to hire an architect. I'm going to spend thousands of dollars going through a feasibility study. They're just going to design it. They're not going to give anything to like, how is it built? So again, kind of going back to that streamlined process of design to construction, there's a lot of people, a lot of trades we sort of nix in the process out of the get-go.
Okay. Wes had a question as the investor. What am I responsible for? That he's adding more, I think. Oh no. Oh, did you answer that, Nolan?
Yep, I just answered
Okay.
that question.
Okay.
So
So that's it there. All
yeah,
right.
so the main thing is especially if you're getting into a multi-unit project, much like we do with our developers, we actually offer having a project manager on the project. So we'll actually go out and we'll actually help you get bids for any of the site work, concrete, foundation, any of the utilities that need to be, hooked up, to and embedded to the site if needed. And so we'll work through that and we pass all those costs. You actually get to see we just tell you what the costs are and you actually pay those contractors directly. We don't get involved in that. Sometimes we can act as a general contractor depending on what market it's in, because we have capacity for that, but in certain cases, but most of the time we're kind of acting as an owner's rep from the technical standpoint of helping you on that on the subcontractor side for what is needed for the site cost, but we manage everything from concept to completion. That's kind of our goal to make it as easy as possible for our developers and investors and builders.
Right.
Yeah, and Wes, we've got a construction cost sheet that we share with you and we fill out together. So you everything is transparent. All the costs are transparent.
I've
Thanks,
got another
guys.
question. And then I'll if somebody else has one, please jump in. My brain is racing. As far as financing, like when you're building a property, you have to, you have a draw after you do this, you have a draw after and then at the end you have all your costs. Is this more or less like a single family purchase though? The building itself, not the concrete and all that, or can you lump that in? Or does the person, the homeowner, the whatever, pay for that outside of it? How does that work?
Yeah, we work with all different people with different financial situations. Some folks have cash and want to pay cash for certain things. Other folks, I would say the younger demographic, our lenders got a one-time close FHA product, for example, and that can include the loan purchase or the lot purchase, the house, what the house costs, and all the site work. So in that case, it is, like a construction to permanent loan, and we take draws from the bank, just like any other builder would. So we always, have to supply them all the information. In modular specific, there's a 35% deposit required, and then the remainder is due when the house ships. So it's a little bit different than, a site build type of scenario. But that's how the manufacturers work, and that's kind of how the process is 35% and remainder due when it ships.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else have anything? I think this has been very informative. I see Rosemary had to hop off and she definitely agreed. Do we have any more questions? Nope. Well, I definitely know where to get a hold of these three guys, and I'm pretty sure I recorded this. So
It said it did.
Okay, so I will
We'll see.
send out. I have my light has problems at this hour every night. So I'll send out the recording and watch it again if you need to, and I will also send their contact information. And sounds like we had some good discussion. We've kind of got some things running through our minds now, and we might be able to make something work. I know what I was thinking is putting, Sandy, I was thinking about putting one of these on my short-term rental lot, that area in the back. And Steve's like, I'm like, So definitely I'm going to look at that coming up soon. So I definitely.
Well, thanks everybody for the opportunity. Appreciate the time.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Everybody
Appreciate it.
have a great night.
In the link. So if you guys want to, if you guys have a specific question about it, talk about a specific project, by all means, schedule a time with me. Happy to bring these guys on, and we're happy to discuss anything you need.
And I'll send that out too.
Yeah, Cindy, you want to stay on a second?
Sure, I can do that. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you guys for coming, and I will
Thank you, everybody.
talk to you all soon because I usually talk to all of you. All right. Thanks, and nice meeting you, Pam.
Nice meeting you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.